Decades after its initial release, Chrono Trigger continues to hold a special place in the hearts of gamers worldwide, having earned a reputation as not just a classic, but the definitive example of excellence in a JRPG. From its innovative use of time travel to its complex characters and branching storylines, Chrono Trigger exemplifies the pinnacle of video game craftsmanship and transcends its status as a mere video game to emerge as the undisputed champion of the Japanese role-playing game. So in today's video, we're going to discuss what exactly makes Chrono Trigger tick and why it might just be the best JRPG and the most perfect game of all time. As usual, before we get to that, don't forget to like and subscribe because 89% of the people that watch my channel are not currently subscribed. So make sure to support your smaller content creators and hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment down below. Let me know if you agree with the points that I'm making here in this video. Is Chrono Trigger the perfect JRPG or the most perfect game? Let's find out. So let's set the stage here. Chrono Trigger is a product of the Dream Team. Hironobu Sakaguchi, creator of Final Fantasy, Yuji Horii, creator of Dragon Quest, and Akira Toriyama, character designer from the Dragon Quest series and creator and artist from the Dragon Ball series. Now those guys are just kind of the face of the Dream Team. The rest comes from the amazing people that have contributed to the development of the game. There's lots of familiar names here like Masato Kato, who would later work on Xenogears and Final Fantasy VII, producer Kazuhiko Aoki, and oh yeah, some of the most legendary composers worked on this game too. More on that soon. But in summary, yes, this was the Japanese role-playing game Dream Team. Chrono Trigger begins innocently enough with Chrono attending the Millennial Fair where we meet a young woman named Marle and a brilliant inventor named Luca. In typical storytelling classic fashion, the festivities take an unexpected turn when Marle volunteers to participate in Luca's latest invention, a teleportation device. As Marle disappears into a temporal vortex, Chrono and Luca decide to chase after her and wind up many years in the past. As the story unfolds, the party learns of the interconnectedness of the past, the present, and the future, and the profound impact of their actions on the course of history. Through their adventures, the party encounters themes of destiny, sacrifice, and the power of human resilience in the face of adversity. But interestingly enough, while traversing through different time periods, the party uncovers Lavos, a parasitic creature that has lain dormant beneath the planet's surface for what we would eventually learn to be like a super long time, and it becomes clear that Lavos poses a catastrophic threat to the world, and of course it's up to Chrono and his allies to prevent its awakening and save humanity from annihilation. Ultimately, Chrono Trigger culminates in a climactic showdown against Lavos where the face of the world hangs in the balance. Interestingly enough, the outcome of the battle here is determined by the choices made by the player throughout the game or by completing the optional side quests. There's 18 endings present in the original game, and one was added later on in the DS release of the game. These range from triumphant victories to bittersweet resolutions and even a cool meet and greet with the developers of the game. This alone adds so much replay value to the game as you can try to experience all possible outcomes and uncover every hidden secret. Central to Chrono Trigger's gameplay and narrative is the concept of time travel. Players can traverse between different eras, each with their own unique environments, characters, and storylines. The ability to explore different time periods not only adds a lot of variety to the game, but also allows players to witness the consequences of their action in different eras. Like I mentioned before, this approach to storytelling encourages exploration and replayability as players uncover everything and alternative endings, of course, based on your choices. The game offers a narrative structure that diverges from a linear progression typical of many JRPGs of that time. At a certain point, you'll have the freedom to explore different time periods and interact with various NPCs in a way to complete certain tasks that would otherwise take a lifetime or more. This open-ended approach to storytelling gives players a greater sense of agency as their decisions directly influence the course of the game's events and ultimately determine the outcome of your story. Now, while Chrono Trigger was made by a few masterminds of the Final Fantasy series, it actually improves upon a lot of how the battles worked in the game. Let's start with encounters. In Final Fantasy, enemy encounters typically occur randomly. These encounters trigger a transition to a battle screen where players engage in combat. Whereas Chrono Trigger, enemies are visible on the map. Players can choose to engage them directly by making contact, or if you're lucky, you can try and skirt around them. This non-random encounter system allows for more strategic decision making and attempts to reduce the frequency of unexpected battles, though most of the time you still end up getting caught anyway. Now, the driving force behind these battles is the active time battle system, or the ATB system. So while the ATB system in Chrono Trigger is similar to Final Fantasy 4, 5, and 6, especially of that era on the Super Nintendo, Chrono Trigger added combo techniques where characters can execute powerful combination attacks by coordinating actions with other party members. These combo techniques, known as dual or triple techs, it's really fun to experiment with different team combinations to check out the different techs and which ones are most effective. Another big point of difference here from Final Fantasy games is the character placement. Battles take place on a single screen without a grid-based layout. Sure, positioning can still influence certain aspects of combat, like the area of effect for certain techs. It's not as grid-based as Final Fantasy games are. The characters of Chrono Trigger are some of the most memorable in any game. Thanks to the timeless designs of Akira Toriyama, characters have iconic and distinctive features such as large eyes, spiky hair, and exaggerated muscles. Toriyama's art style is influenced by a blend of Eastern and Western techniques, drawing inspiration from Western comic books and cartoons, as well as traditional Japanese manga and anime. This fusion of influences gives Toriyama's art a unique and eclectic flavor, combining the best of both worlds. Honestly, what kid didn't love Dragon Ball Z growing up? I remember loving that show, watching Dragon Ball, all those things. And the first time I saw Chrono Trigger, I was like, oh cool, it's Goku with a sword and red hair. I mean, I'll play that. And of course I did. I would also argue that Toriyama's character style fits better into a pixel form than Yoshitaka Amano's. Not to say that Final Fantasy pixel art doesn't look good or didn't work really well. I just think that Toriyama's art style doesn't really change much when put into pixel form, so it's a more true one-to-one to the original character designs. Now this might just be my favorite part of Chrono Trigger, the music. Chrono Trigger's soundtrack is widely celebrated for its exceptional quality. Composed by renowned video game composers Yasunori Matsuda and Nobuo Uematsu, along with one contribution from Noriko Matsueda, the soundtrack features a diverse range of musical styles, from orchestral pieces to hauntingly beautiful melodies, perfectly complement the game's rich storytelling and time-traveling experience. One of the defining aspects of Chrono Trigger's music is how it adds emotional depth for the player, from the uplifting and celebratory themes like the main theme to the more poignant and melancholic melodies of Shala's theme or Too Far Away Times. The entire soundtrack masterfully captures the essence of each moment within the game, immersing you in the world, its times, and its narrative. The use of musical motifs associated with specific characters, locations, or themes makes for a really great sense of continuity throughout the game as well. Now, beyond its role in enhancing the storytelling and atmosphere of Chrono Trigger, the game's music has transcended its medium to become more of a cultural phenomenon in its own right. The soundtrack has garnered a lot of acclaim from fans and critics alike. Its enduring popularity and influence has solidified its status as one of the greatest video game soundtracks of all time, leaving an indelible mark on the hearts of gamers and music lovers alike. Now, if you were to ask me my favorite song in Chrono Trigger, well, it would be this one right here. I've got a few reasons why I think Chrono Trigger is the most perfect JRPG, or maybe one of the best games of all time. See if you agree with my points here. As I've gotten older, I really tend to enjoy games that make you think, and Chrono Trigger is a really great example of that by its use of the timeline. The events of the game take place in many different eras, and no, we're not talking any Taylor Swift Eras Tour here. Chrono Trigger Eras Tour, anybody? Whatever. Sorry. The group jumps between events that happen on a singular plane, as I kind of think of it. Each point in time features its own unique environment, characters, and storylines, offering players a glimpse into different points in history and showcasing the passage of time. As you play, you have the opportunity to alter historical events and shape the course of history, whether it's preventing a disaster or aiding a struggling civilization or thwarting the plans of a malevolent foe. Your actions have tangible consequences that ripple across time and affect the world in profound ways. For the sake of argument, though, it is interesting to think of how the timeline works. It could be boiled down to just a single timeline where everything has a beginning and an end, one straight line. Party is just acting within that timeline and their actions have consequences, good or bad, throughout the game. But does killing Lavos and saving the world challenge that timeline theory? We can examine the possibility of the many worlds theory, where every decision or event has the potential to create multiple diverging timelines, each representing a different outcome or possibility. So many different things can exist at once, but that begs the question, are all the events of Chrono Trigger occurring at the same time? We can also think of the game as having branching timelines. In the context of storytelling, branching timelines offer opportunities for exploration of alternative scenarios and consequences, as well as themes such as free will, fate, and the butterfly effect. You might have pivotal decisions to make that significantly impact the course of the story, leading to different branches or what-if scenarios. Now, despite the nature of its narrative, Chrono Trigger ultimately weaves together its various timelines into a cohesive and interconnected story. Events in one area have repercussions in another, and the characters from different time periods play pivotal roles in shaping the course of the overarching plot. This convergence of storylines highlights the complex and intricate nature of time and reinforces the idea that all moments in time are connected, kind of almost confirming my idea that everything happens at once on a single plane, maybe. The use of time travel as a central gameplay mechanic in Chrono Trigger was groundbreaking at the time of its release. The ability to travel to different time periods, alter historical events, and witness the consequences of actions provided players with a unique sense of agency rarely seen in RPGs at the time. I suppose nowadays it might not seem like a big deal, but like I mentioned earlier in the video, the way that the story was told, it was really something that you didn't see back then. I mean, sure, how the story progresses is linear, but the manner in which it's done is unique and maybe non-linear. Chrono Trigger was also the first time we had seen the phrase New Game Plus. Here you get to keep your equipment and take on Lavos in any time period to go for multiple endings. So yeah, it plays with the whole idea of time periods and branching time periods. It's honestly really great food for thought. When I think of a 16-bit JRPG or even just a JRPG in general, I think of Chrono Trigger, and there's many reasons why. Chrono Trigger has a certain timelessness to it, pardon the pun. It just came out at the right time, developed by the right people, and put on the right console. From the visuals to the music to the gameplay, the pacing of the story, it all just hits across the board in a way that makes it count. So many people have resonated with this game for almost 30 years now. To give you some context, I put a post on Twitter the other day asking if these three games here, Chrono Trigger, Earthbound, and Final Fantasy 3 or 6, are the holy trinity of Super Nintendo JRPGs. So many people said, oh, take Earthbound out, swap it for something else, substitute Final Fantasy 3 or 6 for 4. Nobody said anything about Chrono Trigger, and I think that gives a lot of credence to the idea that Chrono Trigger really just sits on a tier of its own. So many other things are replaceable, but Chrono Trigger really isn't. Since its release in 1995, Chrono Trigger has left an indelible mark on gaming, continuing to inspire developers to create games that push boundaries of storytelling, gameplay, and artistic expression. A lot of games will be promoted as inspired by or a spiritual successor to. We saw this a lot with Sea of Stars, for example, and in my opinion, this can actually hurt a game rather than do it any good because people immediately draw comparisons. It's inevitable. Chrono Trigger is great because of all the pieces that hold together. It is the sum of all of its parts. Other developers may try to lift certain pieces from Chrono Trigger to their games, but that's really where it falls apart. Chrono Trigger is a rare example of capturing lightning in a bottle, something that can't be and won't ever be repeated. Chrono Trigger stands tall among its peers as a true testament to the power of interactive storytelling. From its gameplay mechanics to its beautifully crafted narrative, unforgettable characters, and timeless music, Chrono Trigger is more than just a game. It's an experience, a journey, and a cherished memory that will still continue to resonate with us for many more years to come. So thanks for watching the video today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. Let me know if you agree with Chrono Trigger being the perfect JRPG. Hit the video here. Don't forget to check out my brand new turn-based JRPG podcast available now on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and right here on YouTube. We'll see you again in the next video. Thanks for watching.